And now I'd like to ask Andreas Berger, the Group CEO of Swiss Re and our current IIS chairman, to please join me on the stage. As a child growing up in the Americas in the 70s and the 80s, I was part of a generation that lived and breathed baseball cards. We traded them like currency, memorized the stats on the back as if they were sacred texts, and proudly displayed our most prized cards like trophies. As a devoted Yankees fan, I watched the careers of Don Mattingly, Derek Jeter unfold, and from their humble beginnings to their rise as icons of leadership and excellence. Years later, when I joined Chemical Bank in 1995, now JP Morgan Chase, as an insurance credit analyst, I stumbled into a new arena of heroes. This time they weren't wearing pinstripes or swinging for the fences. They were reshaping industries, building global empires, and redefining what leadership looked like in the world of insurance. I had become just as captivated by these figures as I had my childhood heroes. And I followed their careers, I studied their moves, and if there had been trading cards for insurance executives, I can say without hesitation that my most cherished rookie card would have been Evan Greenberg. Evan's career had been nothing short of legendary. His leadership not only transformed Chubb into the world's largest publicly traded property and casualty insurer, but has also elevated the standards of excellence across the entire industry. His global vision, strategic acumen, and relentless pursuit of innovation have made Chubb a model of resilience, performance, and integrity. During my tenure as president of the International Insurance Society, I've had the honor of inducting 4 remarkable leaders into our Hall of Fame. Each one of them have left an indelible mark on our industry, but tonight, inducting Evan Greenberg, whose impact transcends borders, whose leadership inspires generations, and whose legacy is still being written, is the personal highlight of my career. Evan, your induction is not just a recognition of past achievements, it is a celebration of the values you embody: courage, clarity, and a commitment to excellence. On behalf of the IIS and the global insurance community, it is my privilege to welcome you into the Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to please welcome Evan to the stage. Evan Greenberg, the Chairman and Chief Executive of Chubb Limited.
Please.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Evan. It's a moving moment even for me because your name is well known in the industry, and you've built a great top-class global company. And I remember when I was starting my career in the industry, I had a few role models. And I remember when you were creating ACE in those days, and it's probably a name that a lot of people think, oh my God, it's a long time ago that we mentioned the name ACE, which is now Chubb. And I was always asking to myself, in all those years, what was the decisive success that you remember? And also one, we're amongst friends, what was the failure that you remember in your career?
First of all, thank you for the honor. It is a privilege to be here, and it's an honor to be named, to be given this achievement and recognition. So thank you. And Andreas, thank you for taking time this evening to do this. Look, your career is built over many moments. It's life. This is 50 years for me in the industry. You were right. I've got a lot more to go, so.
Good.
I'm in the middle. A number of defining moments, I suppose, for me. Defining moments earlier in your life are different than ones later. When I put down a cooking spoon and stopped working in a restaurant and went into insurance, and with the notion that I needed to use my brain, I didn't go to college. That was a defining moment for me. When I was a young man in my early 30s, I was given the opportunity to run all of AIG's businesses in Japan and Korea. AIG was a serious command and control company. Chubb is the same way, by the way.
I'm gonna go there.
It may be a secret, but but here I was, a young man. I went to run my own country with 3 companies: a non-life company, a life company, a direct marketing company. It was in the early 90s. It was $5 billion of revenue, which at that time, it's big now, was massive. And the home office was 12 hours away. And you had about an hour a day you could call and yell at me. And then I was left to my own. And the taste, it was as close as I came at that point to running a public company, to running my own company. And it was a defining moment for me. My next defining moment is when I chose to leave AIG 6 months before. When I left AIG, and I think it's instructive for most, I thought I was the president of the company, jobs would be lined up for me. And there were none. And no one was knocking on my door. They didn't know whether I was any good or I was lousy. Who knew? And so I had to come to grips with myself. And at that point, recognize that, frankly, I was going to start all over. And I did in a small company, ACE, as you say. And the joy I've had, I wish that pleasure on everybody who has the drive and the passion, the notion and the ability to build your own business and your own company. It's such a gift. And then finally, defining moment was when ACE bought Chubb. And the decision at that moment to change the company's name from ACE to Chubb, I made sure that everybody had something to hate. The ACE people certainly did. I was throwing their totem away, and the Chubb people hardly wanted to be acquired. So I gave everyone something to hate at that moment, but that was a defining moment for me.
Excellent. So if you look at the young leaders, and we saw 3 of them today, and there are many more here, what would be a recommendation to them when they build their careers?
And I mean this very sincerely, you got to really love what you do. It's not about, you don't have a job as a platform looking for your next job, imagining with that ambition in a superficial way, I'll do this to just get to something else. You got to love what you do. You have to have a passion for it. You put your head down and you learn your craft, and you be the best at that craft. What is insurance? At the end of the day, every company in every industry has to have a clarity of who they are to exist. Otherwise, you have no right to exist. And insurance, it's the art and science of taking risk at its most fundamental essence. And the craft of that, the craftsmanship of the art and science of underwriting, and learning to take risk. If you love that, and you put your head down and you learn to practice it in all different ways, in all kinds of environments, with all kinds of customer segments, and the ability to conceptualize it, and to structure it, and to price it, and to assume it. My advice to anyone coming into the industry, be a craftsman at that. Love it. That's your ticket. Other than that, I find a lot of superficiality.
So underwriting is the core discipline. I know there's a chief claims officer in the room, so let's include the claims people as well. If you look at your company and the quarterly results, the cycle that is coming over and over again, how do you balance, your short-term performance, call it challenge or pressure, with your vision, your strategic view of the company?
Yeah, it's actually not a hard balance to make. The results you see today are an expression of strategy years ago. And strategy is 20% of the action. Execution is 80 or 90% of the action. Excellence in execution. And what you're seeing in our quarterly results is the results of years past. What we're spending our time on more today is the things that are going to produce results 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. At the same time, of course, you're managing day to day. I don't have a hard time balancing it. We'll never sacrifice the longer term for shorter term results. Makes no sense. And frankly, particularly in our business that's cyclical, I'll trade market share all day long for an underwriting profit. I'll shrink my business because we're in a risk business, and you don't chase market share at the expense of a reasonable risk-adjusted return. So I sleep at night about that and operate with a fundamental clarity.
Yeah, I love this because I should have recorded it now and go back to my management. He said, you see, that's exactly what insurance companies should do.
Everybody says it. Few are willing to actually practice it.
Well, we build up our credibility again. So, no, and when you lived various cycles, and when you experienced and lived the good and the bad days of your decisions, that's what I call a rounded manager, underwriter, you call it, but also claims person or other functions in the company. So living the cycles, living the consequences of your own decision, I think that's key. And to be still balanced, and I can see that the way you're presenting it here. So I'd like to go to a topic where you publicly raised your voice. And I publicly applauded you. And this is the US liability situation. Litigation funding and the abusive structure of the system. Where do you stand today? How far are we? I know we had a lot of frustrations when we discussed these topics. So just give us an update, please.
Yeah, this isn't, the US is the poster child, but it's not I don't think it's restricted to the United States. I think it's spreading to a degree. Democracies, countries that are fundamentally built around the rule of law that helps to predict outcome and guide outcome, fundamental to modern society is rule of law. It's meant as when you think about it, as a means of being made whole when you've been harmed. It's a mechanism for redress in a civil society. It's the underpinning of a legal system and why you have a right to bring suit and due process. Though it has metastasized in the United States and it's spreading to other countries, it's one of the things that concerns me because it's become more than that. It's become a money-making industry. The trial bar litigators, they're not an enemy, but they're a money-making industry, and they keep inventing new theories of law, theories of responsibility to be able to create an ability to earn money. At the same time, which is true of so many democracies around the world today, we're in more of a world of haves and have-nots, where wealth is concentrated, power is concentrated. And average people, the average citizens, have only two places to exercise their own agency. One is in the ballot box, and the other one's in the jury box. And this is what we call social inflation. It's those attitudes that say, that poor person there, I'm going to help them to get theirs. And the trial bar cloaks themselves in this figure of Robin Hood. I will take from the rich and the powerful, and I'll give to the poor. The insurance industry, we don't print money. I wish we did, but we don't have a printing press. We intermediate money. And so the cost of insurance is soaring in the United States. But there are other jurisdictions that I notice, some the UK, Australia, and it's beginning to spread. And in the United States, the cost of litigation is rising at 9% a year, 3 times the cost of general inflation in the country. That's a tax on the average citizen. That's a tax on business. That's a tax on innovation. The insurance industry is not a sympathetic figure. So we're not the ones to be out front fighting it. It's business America. It's those small businesses that have to do that. But we have the knowledge, we have the data, we have the wealth, and the ability to help to organize, because it's political. It's not simply, you don't just simply win an academic argument. It's political, is the way you change laws in the United States or in any democracy that will ultimately address it. It'll take years to do. But this is a problem for the industry, and frankly, when we talk about providing a service, it's not simply to charge somebody more money next year for the same product and then pay their claim. It's an ability to use our knowledge and power to actually help affect an outcome and change it in society. That's the role of insurance.
Now, if you
As
listen,
you could tell, I feel passionate about it.
Yeah, and same here. So if you look at the public opinion and the sentiment out there, don't you think the industry, our industry, should actually increase the efforts to communicate better, to reach the end consumer, the customer, and to turn this around, because this blame game is not really helping us. What should we do to improve the reputation and be more effective in our communication?
You know, you have to start, I think, with the most fundamental common sense. We're not the most uplifting industry when you think about it. People buy a product that they wish they didn't have to buy.
Yes.
So let's face that. They don't get up in the morning and wish they could buy insurance. They do it because they have to do it. And secondly, their relationship with us is they see us and they call upon us when something bad has happened to them. Two great moments that don't breed, some close relationship. On the other hand, what I notice is a few things. Because of regulation, because of legal environments, the contracts that we provide are so dense, and they're written in a way to defend ourselves. But they're not viewed as very simple. They're not viewed as friendly, though we pretend we're friendly. Secondly, when somebody has a claim, what do they want? They want to be treated like, they want to be recognized as a person. They want to be recognized with empathy at the moment because they are suffering a misfortune. If you get down to it honestly, how often in claims experience do they really get treated that way? And then they don't want anybody pointing at the letter of the contract to say this or that. They want you to live to the spirit of the contract, of what they thought they purchased. We can make it a lot simpler. You look at paperwork today, what people have to go through to file a claim. And yet, the promise of technology and data, I could give a number of examples now where we can scrape and monitor data real time and know our customer has had a trigger point of a claim, and they don't need to tell us. We're just depositing money in their account. Wow, they'd much rather have that. And the last thing I'm going to tell you is this. What kind of service is it that we give where the only thing we do is provide the money when something's happened? When more and more it's about the preventive services. And I don't care if we're talking physical property, if we're talking legal liability, if we're talking health or accident. It's the services we can provide to improve their well-being in advance in a real way, not some theoretical and we just talk about it way. That is far more meaningful to people. So there are things that not in the future, but now, and it takes companies one at a time to do it. I can speak about it, pontificate about it, doesn't matter, but I can tell you, we really try to live this in our company, and I think that's why we have the reputation we have.
Excellent, yeah. Maybe at the end, there's no such thing as an interview without mentioning AI. So we had this before. AI is a big word. We talked about Gen AI before.
It's actually a short word. It's just AI.
It's AI, exactly. I'm a bit fascinated about agentic AI at the moment, so I just hope it's not another trend or fashion. So I want tangible impact, benefits. Where are you in this camp? Do you believe in it, and do you transform your organization, or do you think like, okay, it's another trend and I'll just do a few use cases and the storm will pass?
Andreas, Belief is a funny word. Belief is a faith-based word, and I'm not a faith-based guy. I'm a fact-based person. Look, it's axiomatic. AI is here. In Chubb, we've been building models, algorithmic AI, for the last 7 or 8 years. It's prolific. We are building our own large language models. We've been doing this for a bit. We're using it in everything. Software, engineering and development, we improved productivity easily 20% over the last couple of years. However, we're playing with software right now that improves software development and model development 10x. Things that would have taken us 3 months to do, we've gotten them done in 2 days now. We're not talking the future. We're talking about it's here right now. It's thrilling, it's fascinating on one hand. It's going to transform the industry. We are about data, and we are about decision making, and we're about improved cycle times of change. The industry cycle time of change for most companies is glacial. In a digital world where one of the hallmarks is the speed of change, those who can embrace that, those who have data, who have the insight, have the ability to change internally in their company, it's organizational management, it's skill sets, to be able to leverage the power of this, those who are the winners. There's no point in discussing whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether it's good or it's bad. It's a reality. It has tremendous pluses and upside, and it has a dark downside. It has risk, and it will spawn new product, new ability, new need for risk taking and risk transfer, no doubt. But at the same time, the ability to more insightfully, more accurately, more quickly, more flexibly do what we do at a lower cost as well. My God, what a powerful, powerful tool. It won't replace humans, but humans, not as far as I can see. But I do imagine, ultimately, it will change the whole model of insurance and risk-taking. I can't yet see what that's going to look like. Right now, I can see how it'll transform companies and our industry. And it's going to really distinguish haves and have-nots. But I can't yet see beyond that, because I think there's going to be a more fundamental structuring that is going to change because of the ability for insight around risk and risk-taking.
No, I like this because, I mean, everybody's going through the same process as we speak. And when we think about underwriters today trying to reimagine their underwriting process, which in itself is a fascinating exercise. How can an underwriter who learned for many years to do a certain thing a certain way suddenly starts to reimagine this process? We're in the midst of it, and we see some very promising outcomes with clear benefits, and it will change the role, the job family, underwriting and claims, by the way.
But I want to just give you one and leave everyone with one small vignette about AI and models right now. You can train a model, you can give it all the data, and you can begin training it technically to underwrite, to do decision making. You're training in the beginning, and you can, by the way, give them tests. We administer tests. They're like IQ tests. And so you can know where is it in its development. You can give it all the knowledge in the world, and in the beginning, it has the judgment and the maturity of an 11-year-old. And then you keep training it, and it starts to have the judgment of an 18-year-old boy. Now, I'll tell you what, I know what it's like to have an 18-year-old boy. That part of the brain is just not well developed in terms of judgment. And then it's fascinating. You train it another 6 months, another year, and all of a sudden, you got a 25 or 30-year-old you're training. It's iterative that way. It's not the knowledge. That's the easy part. It's the judgment.
So I'm definitely going to observe it, because there's something in our company, we call it the performance benchmark. And every time people ask me, okay, what's the top company? And it's consistently over, I don't know how many years now, it's always Chubb. Now fast forward, let's see if that's going to stay like that, also with the new AI journey that we're on. But I'm hopeful. I'm honored to sit next to you here this evening, and congratulations to be accepted and invited to the Hall of Fame. And thanks for coming over, also with your lovely wife. And I think we should give you a nice hand of applause for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing this.
Lovely. Thanks.